बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम।
शुरू अल्लाह का नाम लेकर जो बड़ा मेहरबान निहायत रहम वाला है।
Sudan is the largest country in Africa and second largest in the Muslim world. It is situated in northern Africa. The country is dominated by the river Nile and its tributaries. Khartoum is the capital city, and approximately 70% of the country's population is living in 100 kilometers radius of the capital. The terrain is generally flat plains, though there are mountains in the east and the west. Soil erosion and desertification are the main forms of environmental degradation. Sudan is predominantly a Muslim country. Out of a total population of 40 million, 70% are Muslims, 20% traditional animists, and 10% are Christian. Whereas in the southern Sudan, 70% are Christian, 20% animist, and only 10% Muslims. There are as many as 70 tribes. Prominent of these are Dinka, Nuer, and Shilluk. As per ethnic ratio, Africans are 52%, Arabs 39%, Beja 6%, and others are 3%. The seeds of present conflict were sown during the British colonial rule. They followed a policy not to disturb or annoy the North and allowed Catholic and Protestant missionaries to go to the South, where the hold of Islam was weak. More so, the people from the North were discouraged from visiting South except as traders. The northern Sudan under the British rule flourished to some extent, but the South was completely left in the care of missionaries with very little or no progress. Soon, an invisible barrier was created between the North and the South. In 1960, a serious rebellion broke out in the South, led by the Joseph Legu, and it continued till early 70s. In the late 70s, again a movement started, and finally in 1983, SPLA was formed in Ethiopia. During this period, Jafar al-Numiri was ruling Sudan. He managed to break peace in 1972 that gave the South a large scale of autonomy. Later on, due to the rise of radical Islamic politics in the region, Numiri was forced to declare Sharia law, and he unilaterally suspended the southern self-government. This led to the mass unrest not only in the south but also in the north. Colonel John Gering was sent to the south to calm the unrest, but he revolted and sided with the SPLM. Unlike Joseph Legu, John Gering was not in favor of complete secession but wanted for a greater autonomy. A civil war broke out, and in 1985 Numiri was overthrown by military coup and his Socialist Union Party was disbanded. The successive governments followed the policy of divide and rule, and in 1991 succeeded in breaking the SPLM. In 1997, the Khartoum government signed an agreement with a faction of SPLM which provided for a referendum on self-determination after 4 years. But in 2000 he resigned from the presidentship of southern states and rejoined SPLM in 2002. Finally, on 9 January 2005, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement was signed at Nairobi. The main characteristics of the agreement were oil revenues to be shared on a 50-50% basis, Civil services jobs to be splitted by 70-30% ratio. A 39,000 strong army comprising troops from both sides are to be formed. The South will be autonomous for 6 years, after which referendum to take place on the question of secession. Sharia law to remain only effective in the North. John Garang to be the Vice President and also responsible for the South Sudan. The status of 3 disputed territories, Abyei, Blue Nile and Nuba Mountains, to be discussed and resolved in the due course of time.